I rise today to voice my opposition to President Trump's announcement that the United States will resume explosive nuclear testing process to ensure that nuclear testing would not be resurrected in the U.S. This would not only allow nuclear testing here at home, but will give a green light to countries around the world to resume and do the same. The result would put us on a collision course of catastrophic proportions with Russia and China. Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to voice my opposition to President Trump's announcement that the United States will resume explosive nuclear testing. Nevada was the focal point of nuclear development during the Cold War. Over 4 decades, the Nevada test site, which is located just 100 miles north of Las Vegas, hosted over 900 nuclear tests, more than any other place in the country. Throughout the 1950s, visible mushroom clouds often rose over the desert, could be seen in the distance by people who came to enjoy all Las Vegas had to offer. These tests were conducted to better understand the powers and effects of nuclear weapons, and the site played a major role in shaping national and international policies involving nuclear testing and nonproliferation. The radiation, however, given off by the more than 100 atmospheric tests had devastating impacts on those downwind. The fallout caused cancer and premature deaths for thousands across the Southwest. That's why earlier this year I introduced the PRESUME Act, which would ensure that radiation-exposed veterans, would receive their rightful benefits from the VA who had been exposed to this radiation. In addition, the 800 underground tests sometimes vented, letting out radioactive contaminants into the air and the groundwater supply, and this is problems we are still dealing with today. Radioactivity levels in water are declining over time, but elements such as plutonium and uranium are likely to pose risks for thousands of years. You may remember in 2020, the first Trump administration called for a resumption of nuclear testing at the Nevada test site. This was in breach of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty. Back then, in response to that, I led a charge to the FY21 NDAA process to ensure that nuclear testing would not be resurrected in the U.S. But the more things change, the more they stay the same. Plus ça change, plus c'est la même chose. On October 29th, just this year, Trump announced that he's directing the Department of Defense to resume nuclear testing in a disastrous but not surprising policy reversal. This is because it's mentioned in Project 2025. On page 399 of Project 2025, which is the blueprint for the Trump administration, you see a call for a rejection of the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty. This would not only allow nuclear testing here at home, but will give a green light to countries around the world to resume and do the same. The result would put us on a collision course of catastrophic proportions with Russia and China. It would undermine the entire arms control regime, and it would allow proliferation of these weapons into non-nuclear states. At the same time, it would again put the health of Nevadans in jeopardy. In fact, we have already seen that Putin has directed his forces to prepare to resume nuclear testing, and just this week, the Washington Post reported that China is rapidly expanding and modernizing its infrastructure at the nuclear testing site in Xinjiang province. There's no technical, national security, or political reason for the U.S. to resume nuclear testing. At the test site, we already do groundbreaking experiments and simulations with our existing stockpile to make sure our arsenal is safe, secure, and reliable. All this is done without any explosion. It's a scientific experiment called subcritical, and it's far more helpful to understanding how the weapon will perform than setting off an explosion in the desert. Our leadership on arms control and nonproliferation has clearly come to an end, and the world is becoming a more dangerous place. Note, for the first time ever, the U.S. was the only country to vote no on a recent UN resolution supporting the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty. Not even North Korea voted no on this provision. So what kind of signal does that send? So amidst all this nuclear testing, saber rattling, the New START Treaty, which is the only remaining arms control agreement between the U.S. and Russia, is set to expire in just 77 days. So for these reasons, I've introduced the renewing efforts to suspend testing and reinforce arms control initiative now, the RESTRAIN Act. This would prohibit the resumption of nuclear testing. So I urge my colleagues to join me in supporting this and getting this passed before we begin another arms race.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from Kentucky, Mr. McGarvey, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On November 4th, Louisville was rocked when a UPS cargo plane taking off from Louisville's Muhammad Ali International Airport bound for Honolulu, Hawaii, crashed shortly after takeoff. 38,000 gallons of jet fuel erupted. A normal Tuesday sunset all of a sudden turned Louisville skies into apocalypse. Jet black smoke swirled overhead as fear enveloped our entire city. People were sheltered in place everywhere. Debris and ash was falling for miles. And there was an anxiety as families and loved ones were waiting for the worst news. As the smoke cleared, we found out that we lost 14 of our neighbors. Today, I want to honor those victims of the UPS plane crash. Their names, including the crew on the plane: Captain Dana Diamond, Captain Richard Wartenberg, and First Officer Lee Truitt. We also lost 11 people on the ground that day: Angela Anderson, Carlos Fernandez, Luinez Lou Fedden, and his 3-year-old granddaughter, Kimberly Asa, who was with him at the time. Trinidad Trina Chavez, Tony Crane, John Locks, John Spray, Matthew Sweets, Ella Petty Wharton, and Megan Washburn. Our prayers continue to be with all of them. As tragic as this day was, we also saw the best in people in Louisville. And our first responders did not shy away from this. You can train for it, but you can't ever be ready for a scenario like this. It was said of this inferno that it was hotter than anything you could imagine and raining oil. But our firefighters rushed into the scene. The first on the scene were the Okolona Fire Department. But fire departments from all over joined them: the Louisville Fire Department, the Airport Authority Fire Department, the Shively Fire Department, the Anchorage Middletown Fire, St. Matthews Fire, Fern Creek Fire, Jeffersontown Fire, Fairdale Fire, PRP Fire, Shepherdsville Fire, Zoneton Fire, and even Fayette County, Lexington Fire, came to assist. Our police officers also rushed to the scene: Louisville Metro PD, the Airport Authority PD, Jefferson County Sheriff's Office, Audubon Park Police, who operate in the shadow of the airport daily, Middletown Police, St. Matthews Police, the University of Louisville Police, and Alcohol Beverage Control. We also received EMS responders from Louisville Metro, Anchorage Middletown, St. Matthews, Fern Creek, J-Town, Okolona, PRP, and Bullitt County. Among other first responders who immediately jumped into action, the Kentucky Air National Guard Fire and Emergency Services, the Kentucky Air National Guard 41st Civil Support Team, the Metropolitan Sewer District, the Louisville Metro Emergency Management System, American Synthetic Rubber Emergency Response, and the National Weather Service. Our local and state partners also all came together. Mayor Craig Greenberg and his entire team from Metro government were incredible. Our governor, Andy Beshear, and all of the state emergency personnel rushed into action.
He is facing an existential threat in Nigeria. Thousands and thousands of Christians are being killed. Radical Islamists are responsible for this mass slaughter. I am hereby making Nigeria a country of particular concern. That's a legal definition. When the Christians or any such group is slaughtered, like is happening in Nigeria, 3,100 versus 4,476 worldwide. What horrible numbers. Something has to be done. I am asking Congressman Riley Moore, together with Chairman Tom Cole and the House Appropriations Committee, to immediately look into this matter and to report back to me. And I mean, like, immediately. The United States cannot stand by while such atrocities are happening in Nigeria and numerous other countries. It's not only Nigeria, it's all over. We stand ready, willing, and able to save our great Christian population around the world. This is not going to happen. The killing of Christians is not going to happen.
Many of the colleagues received statements from the Minister of Foreign Affairs and our ambassador in Washington. Yes, a couple of days ago we received a message from Ambassador Dachiyev in New York, which says that our diplomats reached out to the National Security Council of the United States and the State Department of the United States, seeking explanation on these statements by President Trump. Our diplomats asked what exactly was meant by the recent statements by the leader of the United States and his order to the Pentagon to start nuclear tests immediately. So we required explanations by the State Department and White House. But representatives of the State Department and White House avoided any detailed answers and assured us that they will reach out to Russia if they have any explanations to offer regarding those questions.
Secretary, on the Caribbean, there are about some 10,000 U.S. forces there. That's more than you need to just strike boats. What is the Pentagon gearing up for that requires such a buildup?
Well, we take the security of our hemisphere very seriously, in a way that, frankly, for far too long, previous administrations did not. The Western Hemisphere, our backyard, is important. The security of the American people is important, and we're showing that to the world right now. Narco-terrorists are on notice, and we have multiple ways and multiple platforms from which we can interdict. It's not just in the Caribbean, as people have seen, it's over in the Eastern Pacific as well, all up and down Central and South America. So we welcome the partnership with other nations. We've certainly moved assets to our hemisphere for a long time. Folks got used to U.S. forces only being somewhere else, a far-flung place. President Trump is reviving the idea that our own backyard is significant. We've allowed the poisoning of the American people for far too long. It's frankly self-defense. It's self-defense to understand that narco-terrorists, designated terrorist organizations, should not be able to operate with impunity in those waters. So this surge is intentional and ongoing, and we hope that ultimately it clears out, changes the dynamic in our own hemisphere. So I'm obviously not going to talk about the particulars of why troops are where in every circumstance, but they've got a clear mission and they're executing.